Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the last pre-season edition of the Weekend Wrap, brought to you by CrowCast, of course. Very, very exciting indeed as we head into round one. And I don't know about everyone listening, but I wasn't geared up for the opening round, Mac. Were you? Oh, you're still muted. Were you geared up for it, mate?
Yeah, sort of. I did watch all the games, but it just didn't seem quite real. They seemed all. I had to keep trying to convince myself these weren't trial games.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a bit like that. I must admit, it was very odd. I forgot, actually, that the first round was on. That was my first thing. I was like, oh, shit, the footy's on, that's right. And it didn't really quite click to me.
I don't like it. I just don't like it. For me, I understand why they did it and for the reasons that they did it and financial reasons, etc., promotional interest. But, it's a disproportionate comp. Well, they did, but there's a disproportionate comp in so many ways. They just made it a little bit more uneven. It's just, the teams that played last week will have an advantage over the ones that are playing their first game this week.
Yeah, look, that's true. I think so as well. It's there's a bit of a disparity, in my opinion. I don't think it's necessarily a fair way of going about things, Macca.
Not in my book, no.
No, but anyway, look, thanks to everyone who's joined us on Discord for this Monday night edition of the Weekend Wrap, of course. And brought about, of course, by the long weekend. So everyone who's showed up for tonight's live stream, thanks very much, and hope you all had a very good weekend. Also, thank you to everyone who's joining us on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, Macca, and just everywhere. And just a reminder that there's no more audio live stream, but we will be loading up that podcast for all of those who love listening to us on the way to work, usually on a Monday morning, but this week on a Tuesday morning, Macca.
Well, not for me, mate. I'm retired, and the thought of going to work is horrendous, actually.
Yeah, well, thanks very much.
Getting up at bloody at the dawn and going off to bloody work. God, I hated it.
Well, Macca, I think without any further ado, and let me just see if I can do this properly, let's go to your 15 minutes of fame, shall we?
Okay.
Because, yeah.
Well, I actually did do a little bit of a summary of each game, but the first one was Sydney and Melbourne, which Sydney won by 22 points, and I thought looked like a pretty comprehensive side. They had three midfielders missing in Mills and Parker and Adams, but Heaney, who's let his fans down so many times, he'll play a good game, and then he'll play. He was quite outstanding in on ball, and very well backed up by Warner. Grundy versus Gorman was very, very interesting. Now, pre-game, I would have said that Grundy would have taken. Sorry, other way around. Gorman would have taken Grundy to the cleaners. That's what I thought. Going, he's got a huge height advantage, etc. But Grundy counteracted that by running straight, as soon as the ball was bounced, running straight at Gorn and then turning around, which meant that Gorn had no leap, no momentum, no nothing. And and also Grundy around the field I thought was more damaging. So, yeah, it was a real surprise. It was the opposite of what I expected. Oliver, for a bloke who hasn't had a proper pre-season, he played pretty well too, but he didn't use the ball very well. But overall, you just got to say that Sydney were just too strong all round. Melbourne, I've got a question mark against them. As I think they'll certainly probably be in the 8, but I don't see them as a premiership team with the structure they've got now. I don't think so.
No, it's looking a little bit dicey, if you ask me, for Melbourne, to be honest with you. Look, I wasn't 100% surprised by Grundy's performance. I think that a lot of people have written off Brodie, and he's still got a fair bit to give. And Sydney have got a propensity for getting old ruckman to get up. And I reckon Brodie's in for a good year, particularly with the rule changes.
I think he's in for an outstanding year. That's as good as I've seen him play. And also, his field play was quite startling compared to what he produced last year. But then, I think he's one of these guys that likes to be on the ground for a long time, and his play improves the longer he's on the ground. Whereas he only used to get very short bursts in rucket when he's playing at Melbourne. So
it was the worst career decision he's ever made going to Melbourne, in my opinion.
It was, and then Marty Magic makes a really, really good point. A young lad called Matty Roberts is a great chance for the Rising Star. I've been watching him now, waiting for the poor lad to. He got so many injuries and setbacks early in the piece, but he got a full game on the weekend, and he showed how good he's going to be. Marty said he got the nomination for this week. I think Sydney. They're definitely going to be a final 8 side, in my opinion. I think that because they're pretty good all round, and they've got a good ruckman now, and they have a good midfield. They have a good forward set up, good defenders. I can see them doing well. Melbourne, a bit more the same old, and they'll probably, as I say, be in the 8. I can't see them winning the flag.
All right, moving on, and the next round, the Friday game. Turned out to be a nail-biter after it looked like it was going to be a blowout, and then Brisbane just decided to go home. In the end, Carlton 13-8, 1-point winners over Brisbane 12-13, 85.
Yeah, two things. Firstly, very sad to see that both Kitty Coleman and Doherty down with the knee injuries too early in the piece. First game, we've got two very, very good players down and out for the year. It was dominant. Brisbane, 46 points, and just looking like they were just going to belt the living daylights. But the Blues, they just got going, it was just a complete turnaround. They started winning the ball in the midfield, and they've got the two good boys up in front who can take marks, and both Curnow and Mackay. And Curnow kicked straight, as he does. Mackay, he managed to get 3 straight. And they just had that. They do have a good side, Carlton, but they just have that little bit of brittle about them in the sense that they're not always good, but when they're good, they're very good. And
it was very much a game of momentum as far as I could see. I still think Carlton have got a little bit of a worry down back. And Brisbane, I think that maybe their midfield needs a bit of a refresh, particularly Zorko. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't last the season in the mids, Macca, because he was a bit rank.
Yeah, he wasn't absolutely hopeless, but Carlton's midfield really did get on top in the second half, which is one of the reasons why they made such a charge back. And as you say, we were saying before, two really good forwards up there that can kick goals. And Carlton can be. I just think they're going to be one of those sides. Their best is good enough to beat anybody, but they won't always give you their best. And if they ever did, they could be a real chance for the flag.
The Suns on Saturday giving Richmond a good old touch-up and looked pretty good. I had the pleasure of watching this down at the Fulham Cricket Club with young Jack's old man, Mac, and Jack kicked too early and Big Rob was up and about, but the Suns looked really good. And some feedback from senior Lukosius is that they're very, very tight. Apparently, Hardwick gave a speech to the club, to every member of the club, at the beginning of the, not so much the pre-season, but the beginning of the year. And young Jack said it was the best speech he's ever heard.
Well, he probably had never heard one from some of the coaches they've had anything like that. And we have to, whether you like him or not, they've got a great coach now, and his record speaks for itself. But they've also got a great midfield.
Yes.
Rao was absolutely 20 clearances alone from Rao, 10 midfield clearances alone from Rao. I mean, that's just unheard
Just
of
a bulldog.
stuff. And,
just a bulldog.
Yeah. But then they've also got Miller, they've got Flanders, they've got Anderson. They're very strong in the midfield. They've got 3 good tools up forward. They've got Lukosius, they've got King, and the one from Carlton. Can't think of his name at the moment, but they got, as I say, they've got 3 very big guys up there. If they've got a weakness, I think it's a little bit down back. I think that you could get them down back, but I think if you can, to win, we think we must break even in the midfield. If we do that, then I think Casbolt, thank you. If we can break even in the midfield, that's going to be hard because they have, as I said, they've got a quality midfield. They've got a very good ruckman as well. But the one thing that the change in rules will help Rob, because Witt's always given Rob a bit of a cane up.
Can we not go into a preview just yet? Please.
Okay,
we're doing the scores, right?
Yep.
As usual, Macca. Got to keep you on script.
Well,
we'll do the show back to front, shall we?
Yeah. No, anyhow, on the day, very, very well played by Gold Coast, but I think Richmond are going to be a pretty, am I allowed to say piss poor team this year? And I'd only asked. So yeah, I don't like their chances. Cannot see them getting anywhere near the 8.
No, they're going to have to turn it over a little bit, Mac, I reckon. And I don't think it's over yet for them. I think there'll be a couple more that nearing the end of their careers. And, you got to wonder about Dusty, whether he wants to, if it's going to turn to crap, like it looks like it's going to be for the next couple of years with Richmond, then he may want to reunite with his former premiership coach.
Every possibility, you'd think.
And that would, Dusty pretty much, they don't need him in the midfield. He could pretty much roam up forward and just, kick snags all weekend, and that'd be a massive get for them. Anyway, we're speculating. Last game of the round, or the opening round, I should say, and the Giants, pretty impressive. Collingwood looked a little bit dusty, and ended up going down to the Giants by 32 points. The Giants 18 goals, 6-1-1-4 to Collingwood 11-16-82.
Very, very impressed with the Giants. Really impressed with the Giants. I can't find the weakness in their side. They've got a very good forward line. They've got a very tall guy in Hogan who can take marks. Brown's very lively. They've got some of their midfielders hang around there as well. They've got a very, very good midfield team, a quality midfield team, and they've got a very, very good back six as well. But to me, just on one game, I got them as flag favourites just on one game, in that sense that I thought they looked really good. No, I'm just telling you what I think. And look, I know that Collingwood made their own chance a lot harder by missing shots for goal they should have kicked. But having said that, you look at that team in GWS, and there aren't a lot of weaknesses in them. In most teams, you could pick out maybe 6 or 7 players you could target, but there might be only a couple at best in the GWS. I like them. I think they're certainly going to be right up there with the whips are cracking, and it wouldn't surprise me one little bit if they won the flag.
Well, the year before last, we thought they were underperforming, didn't we, Mac? And
we did.
They seem to be, only one way. Kingsley's got them playing a more consistent brand of footy, in my opinion. And look, I don't disagree that they're going to be around the mark. I think it's terribly early to start calling premiership favourites. And I wouldn't be too harsh on Collingwood. Traditionally, last year's premiers get off to a slow start. They party on a little bit longer, and their pre-season's probably not quite as intense as those chasing the leader. So certainly not writing off Collingwood yet. But nevertheless, you got to beat what's put in front of you, and the Giants did that pretty convincingly in the end by 32.
I think so.
Yep. All right. So, Mac, I'm not even going to show the bloody flag because, I mean, it's pretty bloody meaningless.
Well, it is meaningless.
It is.
It's bloody stupid.
Yeah, never mind. But anyway, look. Who was it? Mason Cox. Now, what happened with Mason Cox, Mac?
What you mean of the incident or of his game?
No. He's been offered 6 for an incident that happened prior to the game.
Oh, no, I'm in the dark. I wasn't aware of that thing. What happened?
Well, that's what I'm just asking you, mate.
Well, the only thing I know of is the fact that the Collingwood people were just having a rehearsal circle work stuff, and as they threw the ball up, Cox came in there, grabbed it, and took their ball.
6
But
weeks.
surely not for that.
6 weeks. Oh, was
Was
that a
it for
troll
that?
tweet? Was that a troll tweet, was it?
Yeah, it had to be.
Yeah, no, that's all right. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
I just read it like about 5 seconds before we went live, and
Well,
what the hell is that?
Well, I was struggling to think of anything else he was involved in apart from that.
Yeah.
He had a pretty poor game.
Yeah, it wasn't the best. All right, well, Mac, we may as well turn our attention to our game, which is going to be quite difficult. Obviously, on the Saturday night, 7:40 our time, up there in the Gold Coast, and look, as I said before, the feedback I got from Big Rob was they're pretty tight. They've bought into Hardwick's systems and his mantra, and he's a bit of a get the boys up and firing sort of a coach, and the way they played, and as you rightly mentioned at the beginning of the show, their midfield is going to give us a lot of problems.
It's scary. Yeah.
So let's just look quickly at the at a few little lazy stats. So last 3, they're 2-1 against us, Mac, Gold Coast. So they had a pretty good record against us. Last time they beat us up there by 43 points, if you remember. It was quite convincing and one of those really disappointing losses that we had last year. And they're certainly the bookies' favourite at the moment. Just
I'm certainly not
to
surprised.
2.20.
Look, they were quite impressive.
Yeah.
I still say that that their opposition wasn't that great, but you can only play against who you're playing against, and you can only do what you can do. And what they did well.
Look, and I've got a couple of things here on the board. I don't know whether you've got YouTube up, Mac, but I've got a couple of things on here on the board. The Suns, obviously, their powerful midfield. Rao, Noah Anderson, Took Miller, and young Sam Flanders, who I really, 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 really wish we would have gone for last season, because I think he's going to have a breakout year. Young Flanders, he had a good back half of the season, and I think he will be one that Damien Hardwick really kicks along, and he'll really benefit from Hardwick's coaching. I think give him a bit of license. So I mean, we've got obviously Crouch and Laird. You would consider the 2 inside mids. We got Geordie Dawson obviously running through there, and then you would think that we would have a bit of Isaac against his old club, and then maybe a bit of Pedler and Rochelle. But the 2 insiders, Laird and Crouch, are going to have their work cut out against Matty Rao and Noah Anderson.
Yeah, it's an interesting scene that we're facing there, because of the fact that ideally we'd like to have something like a Dawson, one of Crouch and Laird, and maybe Rankin. But with the quality of their midfield there, I think we've got to have basically hard nuts in there all the time because of the fact that they'll just break away all the time. Because it's going to make it very awkward to do some of the rotations we'd like to, unless O'Brien gets really on top in the ruck. And I do think the new rule will favour O'Brien. As I said, he used to get slaughtered by Witts. Witts' big arms go right over the top of O'Brien, but if he's allowed to push him in the chest while he's going for the ball, that's going to just help him a bit. So I think he'll do better against them than he has done in the past. And I'm going to call it break even with that, and it's going to be then up to the boys that down at ground level then to sort it out, because I don't think either ruckman will be dominant. I'd love to think that O'Brien could be under the new rules. Maybe he will, but as I said in the past, Witt's given him a bit of a hiding.
Yeah, I'd struggle to get. Witt's is a big fella. Look, I've also put up on my little cheat sheet here that they will probably struggle the most with our forward line, even in the absence of Riley Thilthorpe. We've still got, one of the better forward lines going around. And it'll be interesting to see how we go, Mac. You would think the easy option is to bring Burgess in for Thilthorpe.
That's what I would do.
You could mount a case that would just go very small.
That's the other option. You could go that way. I don't think they will, though, because they need a relief ruck, and Burgess will have to be that relief ruck whether he likes it or not. So, and that's why I think he's coming in. Normally, if you went back last year, you'd say probably Himmelberg would take that spot, but they've been playing Himmelberg down back, and he's looked bloody terrible down there. I can't think of bringing Himmelberg in, so I think that Burgess is very logical to go to that particular spot. I know he hasn't played AFL for a couple of years, but he has kicked 60-odd goals in the VFL each of the last 2 years.
Dominated in the VFL.
Yeah, so the guy can actually play. I'm not saying he's going to be a star, but he can actually play, and he's got to fill a role, which is the most important thing. And if he fills his role well, we do have very good sharkers and crummers down there. So, and he may take a grab or two himself. So, and so I know somebody in the chat quite rightly said we need Fogarty to become the man down there, the key guy down there.
So I think there's a case for bringing in Lockie Gallant instead of Burgess. Lockie Gallant can chop out in the ruck. I think we'll be looking to spread them, Mac. It really wouldn't surprise me if they pick Gallant over Burgess and tried to spread them with the three leading forwards and the swarm of small forwards. I can really see and Lockie Gallant can take a pack mark. I'm almost inclined to think that would be the more challenging lineup for the Suns rather than just your traditional big clunking forward up there.
Yes, but then you come to the second ruck,
well, Lockie Gallant can chop in the second ruck.
Yeah, he's up against Whitby. He hitting him in the navel. He's got that height advantage.
No, he's not that short, and he only has to chop out for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, well, maybe 5 minutes or so. Yeah, but look, it's not out of the question, and it's obviously would be between those two players, in my opinion. I think it'll be Burgess. That's my opinion, but it wouldn't upset me or surprise me if it was Gallant. They're the two players in question.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier that we might have to go in really grunty in the midfield, and Sam Berry obviously put his case forward last week. Yes. Does he get included, do you think?
Well, I've got him in a draft team, and I must admit it's very much a draft team at this stage, but going by who they seem to pick all the time, I've got him as a sub. I've got him in the definitely what is it these days, the 23. But maybe they might go differently, but it's hard to see any of the other players that normally being made the sub in lieu of him. But they said Berry should be picked over Crouch and go. I don't necessarily agree with that comment.
No. There's no way Crouch doesn't get picked. No way. He's been in good form, and we need someone that can get 30 touches.
Yes, we do. But I would bring, because we're going to need that some grunt in there, and as the game goes on and players get tired, Berry would be very good to bring in, I think. So he would be my sub.
Oh, I wouldn't sub him. I'd play him.
I wouldn't sub him.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, no. If you pick him, you got to play him. I don't think he's not a sub, Mac. You want someone like a McHenry or a Lockie Murphy in as your sub. I don't think you play Berry as your sub. Not for mine. Of course, the other reports as well that Tex isn't 100%. We could end up seeing both Burgess and Gallant. Tex apparently having some back spasm issues at the moment.
Yes, apparently hasn't trained at full pace yet. So we've got, what are we, a Sunday game? Is it Sunday?
Saturday night game.
Saturday night. Yeah, look, I think he'll be all right. I did hear him talking about him today, and they said that his back has improved, but they deliberately didn't put him in any contest work at training, just to make sure he doesn't hurt it. So, yeah, I think he'll be okay.
Now, look, don't forget, for those in the chat, if you are on Discord, please put your hand up if you want to have something to say. We are live and interactive. That's one of our big things, isn't it, Mac, that we enjoy having people on, having a chat, and, of course, the makeup of the round one side is always a bit contentious, so good fodder for a bit of discussion. If you are on YouTube and we can see your chats here, so that's fine. G'day to Daniel and Vignetta and a couple of others on YouTube there. Fantastic. And if you're on Facebook and you want to get involved in the chat, get onto our Discord. And as I've mentioned before, Macca, our Discord is fantastic. A little community going there, and not only on game day but also during the week, and obviously during the live stream. So we can't see the Facebook chat. So if you are on Facebook or indeed on any of the platforms and you want to get around a good community of Crow supporters, then get onto our Discord. The links in all of the profiles for all of our socials.
Yep, and we love to read their comments, Veen, because we steal them most of the time and use them.
Well, that's right. As we've said before, they're a great source of information, and they make us look good half the time.
And why not? Now, I'm going to put a question to you, Veen. You said that you want Berry into the 22. Who are you putting out of the team to put him in?
McHenry.
But he isn't in the 22 that I've got.
Well, I mean, I can't see a 22, so...
No, but, the only players that would be in contention...
I'd have Berry in ahead of Lockie Murphy.
Well, I was going to say, that's the only player you could target, really, to put Berry in for. And make Murphy the sub. You could go that way.
That's what I'd do. I think I'm very much with you, Mac. I think we need to be able to match them at the coalface. They absolutely destroyed Richmond at the coalface last week, and they'll be better for the run. I think not only do we need to match them at the coalface, but we also need to be able to stifle the game if they start getting a bit of momentum. We need to be able to shut down those fast exits out of clearance. We haven't got bad pace on the outside. Of course, we've got Dawson, we've got Saligo. You'd think would start on a wing. We've got Chase Jones. We've got Josh Rochelle there. We've got Isaac. We've got some pace around. So I'm not too worried about that. But I just think we need to be able to either have enough firepower to be able to rotate off Rao pretty regularly. And we also need the ability to shut the game down a bit if they're getting a bit of momentum.
Yeah, look, I think the midfield is the probably the key to who's going to win and lose the game, in the sense that if they have the same sort of dominance or anywhere near the dominance that they had last week, I can't see us beating them. But on the other hand, if we were able to break even with them, or even get a slight advantage in the midfield, then I think that our forward line is better than their forward line as a whole. Then I think that we could win the game. But I think we have to at least break even or win the midfield. Otherwise, it's no hope.
Let's not discount their forward line. They've got a good forward line, obviously, with King and Casbolt and Lukosius and those types up there, and a couple of lively smalls. I think, what we've been able to do over the last couple of years is launch a lot of attacks off our half-back line. A lot will depend on the rebound we get. We need Hinge to actually, start hitting targets. He's been getting the ball, but not really disposing too well. We need Miller to have another game like he had last week, where he showed a little bit of form. Those blokes need, and we need obviously Brodie Smith to ramp it up a little bit and play like a senior player. Irrespective of the tools, and we'll talk about the tools in a minute, our secondary line of attack is off that half-back line.
It has to be. Yeah, it does have to be. And they have to really try and carry it a little bit if they can, rather than just like doing dump kicks like Smith sometimes, quite often does, where they fall short of the 15 and you just get swept straight down the ground. So they've got to be very careful not to do that. But that's why, as you say, somebody like a Hinge with the ball in his hand, in Miller's hand, well, then that generally doesn't happen. But he's the one that generally gets us in a little bit of trouble with those dump kicks.
Yeah. And obviously, we need to stop supply to the big fellas. So they've got Benny King, they've got Levi Casbolt, both can take a good mark. King seems to kick straight whenever he plays against us and then doesn't for the rest of the season. So they've got a couple of good marking targets up there, Lukosius as well, obviously, and they can kick a long goal. So this is where we need to make sure that there's enough pressure on the kicker coming into their forward 50 that they don't get clean use, because if they start being able to lace out their forwards, we're in a world of pain.
Oh, totally agree. Interestingly enough, though, who have you got in your back line to stand those three guys?
Well, Butts, I think, has to take King.
Agreed. I've agreed with that one.
Yeah, and then it becomes a little bit of a raffle, I think, because I don't know whether we've got anyone to match up with Casbolt's strength, Macca. You would think that Keane would probably be the one if he's fit.
Yes, I agree with that.
I haven't heard whether he's fit or not. We'll obviously hear on Thursday night.
He is fit, apparently.
Yeah, so if he's fit, he plays, and he plays on Casbolt, I think. Lukosius can take a third. You would think that Michael Annie would be the one for Lukosius.
Yeah, that's how I mark them down myself. Yeah.
But they've got a couple of good other small players as well, Mac, and so our smaller brigade is going to have to be on their mettle, because they can get goals through their smalls, and if we're too focused on blanketing their tall players, we might get hurt on the ground.
Yeah, well, we've got to make sure that doesn't happen.
Well, thanks for your input.
Well, I didn't know what to add to that, because I think you really summed it up very well, Craig.
Oh, it's so kind of you, Mac. So look, I mean, NT Rabbit made what I thought was a pretty reasonable point on the chat, saying, God, it's round one and we're already struggling to scratch up a midfield to beat the Suns. I see us and the Suns as being the two rising teams this year. Well, we should be. But as I said to you at the end of last season, Macca, there's a danger for the Crows for mine that we actually plateau for a year. And a lot's going to be resting on Matthew Nix's coaching and selection in the first half a dozen rounds. We've got difficult away games in the first half a dozen rounds. And this is a big test first up, and it's a big test of blokes that he's put faith in the midfield. Laird and Crouch have come in at the expense of other players, and they've played well, but are they good enough to go up against? You'd probably say, I'd say top 4 midfield in the comp.
It's a very, very good midfield. It's very good. But I also agree with your comment that Gold Coast is definitely going to be one of the teams on the rise. At last they've got a premiership coach who amazingly has gone from being burnt out to being an eager coach in a very, very short period of time. I wish I could recover as quickly as that.
New surroundings does that for a bloke.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, he's got him up and firing, and look, he is a quality coach, being very serious about it. He's got the record on the board to show that, and I think that he's got a few tools to use that perhaps Jude didn't use as well as he could, and I think they are one of the teams on the right thing, and as you say, I'm not really rapt about having to play them first up, particularly with them having a game under their belt like they've had, and a good one, so that where their confidence will be high. I'm just seeing it as being a very, very hard game for us to win.
Yeah, a few in the chat saying Royal will probably go to the coaches. Yeah, maybe they might actually play Michael Annie on one of their medium smalls. But I still think Michael Annie is a good matchup for the coaches, to be honest.
I think Michael Annie will probably take Rosas, I think.
Yeah. I think what it comes down to, Macca, is that it's a test, and it's a test that I think we are, I guess since 2017 we've been so used to being down and uncompetitive and scratching out wins and all the rest of it, and we had a few good wins last year, and we probably should have made the 8, bar a dodgy umpiring decision, but There are some pundits picking us for a top 4 spot this year. There are some pundits that are saying that we've got a top 4 list. And, I have no problem. I have no problem with Matty Crouch being selected in the 22. But I think it's an indictment on how little our midfielders progressed since 2017. That Laird and Crouch are still our mainstays in our midfield. I think that's an indictment on our progress in the midfield. Well,
one player you have forgotten, of course, is that we've got Dawson now in the midfield, and he's as good a midfielder as it. Yeah, so our midfield has progressed in the sense that we never had a player of the quality of Dawson, that big midfielder who could take strong overhead marks and as well as playing down at ground level as well. So we have improved in that sense. In terms of Crouch and Laird, they're not the type of players that you're talking about, like the burst player, but their midfielders come in all sizes and shapes, and it just depends whether they're effective or not. That's what is the most important thing. For example, if you have a look at the guys that are the Suns midfield, there's no two alike in that particular team. They're all totally different type of players, and which is I think is a great advantage.
Well, I think we've got differences there. I think we've got Dawson, as you say, the big body sort of Bontempelli type. We've got Rankin, who will be the zippy type. Pedler goes in there as the powerful sort of in-out sort of player. You got Jakey Saligo, who can run through there, who's got a nice little step and is sneaky quick, I think. I guess what concerns me, though, is that Laird and Crouch will play 70% to 80% of their game time in the midfield, and we all know that their defensive work isn't great. So that's my concern, that the modern midfield game has passed them a little bit. And look, and I'm happy to be wrong. I'm just saying this is my concern at the moment. that when I look at our side and I see the lack of real progression in our midfield, and I think, gee whiz, and Rabbit's comment reminded me of that thought. It's like, gee whiz, we really haven't progressed our midfield all that much. Rankin's only just started to play mids. We've got Berry, who didn't play a midfield for a season. We've got Pedler, who's played a little bit in the midfield. Probably hasn't got a tank yet. We've got a lot of players that are not quite there as midfielders yet. And a lot of that is because they have, we ran Sloan in there for the first half of last season.
That's bad coaching, though. That's just bad coaching.
Well, but that's exactly what I'm saying. I guess that's what I'm saying, Mac. I think this is going to be this first half of the season is going to be a real test for Matty Nicks, because he has shown a liking to go with experience. And it's to the detriment, I think, at times, and we don't know what's happening behind closed doors and the key indicators and all that sort of stuff. We can only observe from the outside. But it just looked to me there were opportunities last year to give blokes more time in the middle, and they didn't get that time. And as a result, they're a little bit further behind in their development than what they should have been. Young Harry's another one, and obviously he's suffered an injury now and he can't be considered. But he would have been one that I would be talking about too. Young Zach Taylor as well as another one that could be considered. I just think it'll be interesting to see whether the makeup of our midfield lasts the season, because I have a feeling it won't.
So what if you don't think it's going to last the season? What do you think is going to take its place, mate?
Well, I think we're going to be found out for pace. I think having Laird and Crouch, or a combination of Laird, Crouch and Berry in the midfield, is going to see us very slow and one-paced. And in the past, what we've done in the first couple of seasons of Nicks's tenure, he relied on pressure at the coalface and rebound off half-back. Most of our scoring didn't come from centre clearances. It came from rebound off half-back, came from turnovers, right? Brought about by pressure. And it was a high-intensity game, and it was hard work, and sometimes it worked better than others. But we never really had the class to go head-to-head with a quality midfield. And I still don't think we've got the class to go head-to-head with a quality midfield. And I think some of that is because we're still running with Laird and Crouch, who are great midfielders in their own right, Mac, don't get me wrong, and they both deserve to be selected. That doesn't mean it's our best combination. And I think it cost Sam Berry, and I know Sam was down on form and confidence last year, but even so, I believe that we lost track of development, lost sight of development last year for the sake of going for a flag and going for a final spot, and as a result, there's a couple of players that really suffered for that, and I think Luke Pedler's one, I think Harry Schonberg's another, I think Sam Berry's another.
Yeah, look, I can't agree, Ray. Berry last year, you have to earn your spot, Dean, and he didn't play well enough to earn his spot last year.
I disagree. I think with a developing side, sometimes you've just got to play these kids and let them develop. Sure, you've got to earn your spot in a winning team, but when you're a developing team, Macca, would you agree that there's some other players in our side that probably could have not been first picked? I mean, there were times Riley Thilthorpe got picked every week, and he didn't do he had long stretches of not doing much.
But that one is actually supported by your statement. Sometimes you've got to pick players so that they can emerge as a player.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't pick and choose.
But you can't have that in every position. And I just think the midfield is a situation where most sides have got good midfield, and if you can't, and Berry last year, he was better the year before, but last year he never really got his.
Before. He was the league's leading tackler the year before in his first season of AFL football.
Yes, but he got
3 games, and he got 3 games, and got ceremoniously dumped and never considered for the rest of the season, Mac.
Sometimes you just have to do something that makes them want to pick you, and he just didn't do it. Look, we're going to disagree.
No,
We're going to disagree on this
look,
moment.
whether we agree or disagree, what we're going to see this season, I think, is the fruit of that selection policy. We're going to see the outcome of that selection policy, good or bad, Mac. I'm quite happy to be wrong. Good or bad. It may well be good.
I reckon it's good in the sense that Berry didn't play all that well last year, and he never got picked. Now the guys, he has really sat down and worked his ass off over the break, and he's come back.
Who?
And Berry.
What?
And so he's cut.
Have a chat with him.
I could have, but I didn't. No.
How do you know?
Because he said so. He actually.
I'm
said
sure
so.
they work their asses off every preseason, mate.
Well, all I'm saying is, for whether he did or didn't the year before, this particular year he's come back and he's looked so much better for it. And so at the moment he looks like he deserves a spot. But you can't just bloody pick him because he was good the year before. You've got to pick him what they're showing at the time.
Mate, we picked Matt Crouch on the basis of his 2017 form.
Oh, I don't think that's true, Dean. I mean, the guy was racking up 30-odd possessions a bloody game. Let's get real.
Yeah, but he can do that with his eyes closed. It's always been about what Matty Crouch does with it. And look, I'm only stirring you up because Matty Crouch has shown that he's being a lot more positive with ball in hand. So I'm only razzing you up, mate. I just worry that in the efforts to make a final series last season, we didn't do the development. And you and I commented on it during the course of the season, Macca. The blokes that suffered as a consequence of that selection policy. So I go back and show you the tape where we've discussed this. So
the main one was Sloan.
Sloan, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, that was one that we used to talk about every week, and I think that I like loyalty to players, but the player also has to show the loyalty back by performing, and it doesn't really matter who you are. If you're not playing well enough, you just shouldn't be picked.
Yeah, I'm not a proponent of this loyalty thing. I think you get paid to do a job. Benny Keys is probably another one. I think he's reinvented himself as a high forward who can kick a goal. And he regularly causes teams problems, and he's sneaky quick, and he gives 100% and all the rest of it. His set shot goal kicking can be a bit loose. But certainly his goal kicking on the move is all right. So, I mean, we've got a lot of weapons. Sorry?
I like him. Because he's so unorthodox. I mean, he's not your regular forward. He's prepared to work all over the forward line, and he's also prepared to play defensively as well as make space to get the ball as well. So, as I say, he works his ass off in the forward line. You can't criticise him.
And I think that his form is the reason why I'm happy to have Murphy out of the 23 in favour of Sam Berry, because I think in Murphy and Keys, I think Keys offers us very similar to what Lockie. I think they're very similar players in many respects in terms of what you get out of them. I think you get a little bit more goal sense out of Benny Keys than you do Lockie Murphy. And I just feel like that Murphy's the one that comes out if you want to reinforce your coalface with having Sam Berry in.
He is the obvious choice. If you're going to play Berry in the 22 rather than the 23, then it's Murphy who would be the target. Yes.
Yeah. So, and the other one we haven't talked about is Luke Pedler, of course, who I'm a massive fan on. And I hope he's done the work this off-season. I'm sure he has, because I can see him being a little bit of a wild card through the midfield Macca this season, and I hope he gets a few CBAs during the course of the game on the weekend.
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea because he is quite physical too when he attacks the ball. He has got a strong body, so he can. he's not easily knocked off the ball or brushed off the ball, whereas a lighter player can be. So, and I know that if I remember rightly, I think he was playing as a junior football as a midfielder, wasn't he?
Forward midfielder.
So very much what he's doing now.
Yeah, always like the reason being that he carried a lot of leg injuries as a teenager.
He did, yes, he did. But
and that's why he's so far behind the 8 ball, together with the COVID situation. But he's to me just looks a natural midfielder, mate.
I agree with you, and I agree with Buddy Magic's comment too, that Pedler needs to graduate this season. No more just cameos only. We want him to be a complete footballer. I mean, he has got the whole package. He really has. So we just want to see that and see that fairly regularly. That's what we need to do.
Well, the one that I'm probably more impatient about is Josh Shelley, Mac. Third season in.
Fair comment.
Third season in, and we've seen bits and pieces. We paid a high price for him, pick 6. We didn't go after what was the lad's name that ended up going to GWS? Vardy, help me. Starts with a C. Not Callahan. No.
Callahan.
Finn Callahan. That's right. We were happy to sit and take Rochelle. And I think it's time that the club repaid the faith. That the player repaid the faith.
Yeah.
I think he's got to stop being a flashy player. He's actually got to start playing 4 quarters of football. He's got to go when he needs to go, and he's got to run when he needs to run, particularly defensively, Mac. And if he hasn't got the tank yet to do that, then he would be the one that I would be giving a stint in the 2s and making him earn his spot back by running him as a first choice midfielder in the 2s.
As I say in the chat, and which I've heard him say himself, Rochelle said that this is his first year that he's playing without hip pain. So we would expect, if that is the case, then he's been held back a little bit by that. And if he isn't suffering from it now, then we would expect him to rise to a new level this year.
Well, and you would think that would have impacted on his preseason, his ability to train at full, his loads and all the rest of it. And again, we've got to temper everything we say with the fact that we just don't know what happens behind closed doors. We don't know what people are carrying. We don't know what loads they're on, all the rest of it. So again, we are rank amateurs looking from the outside in. But to my way of thinking, the way Josh has been playing, I just want to see him increase his output to 15 to 20 possessions a game.
Oh, yeah, comfortably. Because he does get a little, now and again, he gets a stint on the ball as well. So, and he's not too bad at clearances either. So,
no, he's good around the contest, Mac. He is.
But there is one comment that's been made, which is a very relevant one. He occasionally misses set shots that you and I would kick, mate, and yet he'll kick some of the harder ones, but then sometimes misses the really easy ones, and that's something just tidy it up and then that applies to the whole team, of course. But he's the sort of guy that gets those opportunities. So when he gets an opportunity, we want to see it go through for 6, not 1.
So speaking of set shots this year, Mac, you might have. Do you ever get on the old YouTube? Do you, mate?
I do occasionally.
You've seen YouTube shorts?
Depending on what.
So there's 2 formats on YouTube, Macca, for those of more senior years. And one of them is shorts, and they're just short videos, right? And I've been threatening this now for a couple of years.
Oh, it's about like the 25, 30-second ones.
Yeah, that's right. I've been threatening this now for a couple of years, Macca, and I'm going to do it this year, right? I am going to, after every game, I'm going to have shots from set shots this is, from exactly the same spots as we missed our set shots.
Yeah.
I'm going to give myself a 10% discount for age in terms of distance.
Yes.
Right?
So from the goal
And
square.
and for everyone that I miss, I will donate $10 to charity. Then we'll keep account during the course of the year, right?
Okay.
All right. So I've been threatening this for too long, and someone told me the other day, I think it might have been my son, that I need to put my money where my mouth is. So that's what we're doing. So that'll be our YouTube Shorts content this year. Predominantly is me missing set shots for goal and donating lots of money to bloody Crows Foundation.
Well, you could be in a bit of strife and say, "Is Texas had a shot from 60 out and missed?" You've got to,
Well,
you got to kick from 50 then.
Yeah, do you reckon? Hit me up in the chat. Tell me what a fair discount. I'm 56, right? I'm 56.
Yeah, 25%.
25%, you reckon?
Yep.
So, like, I'll put a poll up on socials, but if you're on chat, 50%. Come on, mate. Make it a bit of a challenge. I want to be able to donate something to charity, for God's sakes. All right.
I reckon 25%, because let's say it's 40 metres out. You're kicking then, you're going to kick from 30.
I reckon Vardy asked me what my range is. I've actually found my footy boots the other day, so I'll actually be wearing footy boots. That gives me an extra 3 or 4 metres.
Yeah.
I reckon at a pinch, I could probably still kick at 45, but more comfortably probably 40, I reckon. 40 is probably my 55 metres.
Well, I used to be able to kick 60, and I can only kick about 40 now. But at least
used to.
Yeah.
Well, are you going to come out and do it?
No.
Come on,
I'll bloody pull me hamstring. But the one thing I can do, I can still kick straight.
Well, we'll see, because it's been a bone of contention for us for years now that the Crows can't kick straight, and professional footballers should be able to kick straight. And I've been told I need to put my money where my mouth is. So I thought, well, what better opportunity to put a bit of short content on the channel than to do that? So that's what we'll be doing this year.
We've certainly caused some chaos in the chat. Some of them claiming they can kick 100 and all that sort of crap.
I reckon they had me on my fourth attempt. Yeah, good on you, Scoot. Thanks for your support, mate. I really appreciate it.
You're totally right. Totally wrong. It happened earlier than the fourth attempt.
One of my last games of football, in fact, it could have been my last game of football. I've tried to. I've taken a mark at half forward, like I'm playing like Z grade something. I've taken a mark at half forward, and I've got the big ruckman standing in the mark, and I thought, I'll be able to sell a bit of candy here and go around here. So I've gone to sell a bit of candy. I've planted my left foot, and my left leg had nothing to give, and I've just gone straight down with a torn hamstring. And like, because we were playing Z grade, everyone just started laughing, including me. It was just a sad scene, and I just. So yes,
we look. It's a totally different thing when you play. When you haven't been playing for a long, long time, you do lose the power. So the whole leg wants to fall off.
That's it. So look, that's the challenge, Mac, and we'll see how that goes. And Crows Foundation could be very rich by the end of the season.
Yeah, look, I reckon at least 25% discount, and we'll leave it up to the fans to say out there whether they think 25% fair, or should you get 30 or 40?
Daniel on the chat says if I can kick 40 metres, he'll donate $40 to the channel.
Wow.
I wonder if Daniel's my son in disguise.
But he wants video proof.
I'll take you up on that, Daniel. I'll get the rangefinder out and plot out 40 metres.
But Daniel, if he puts up a video where you see him kicking and it goes all black and then it joins up with the ball going through the goal, you know it was just a rigged tape. So
and Luz, it'll be at Colonel Light Gardens Oval. So anyone that wants to come out and mock me or stand the mark, no standing on the goal line though, that's not allowed. But Colonel Light Gardens at a time yet to be disclosed.
To your
when
credit,
is it a Saturday night game? It could be a Sunday afternoon. I might go out and have a kick depending on the weather.
Look, it's a great idea, mate, and I hope you do well.
I'm sure I won't. All right. So final thoughts, Mac. And look, just a reminder, we've probably got about 10 minutes left. So anyone who does want to have a say in the Discord audience, now would be a really good time. We've got Arab here, Mac. So why don't we just get Arab on before I get your final thoughts? Because usually Arab's got something decent to say. How you going, Arab?
Hello, guys. How are you today?
Good, mate.
Very
Good.
pleased to hear your lovely voice again, Arab. What have you got for us, mate?
I just want to add a few things. I think this is my personal opinion on McHenry, is I find him to be the perfect sub to come in when like shit hits the fan, because he just brings that energy and that chaos where it's like, he's just there for us and he's always trying to do something, especially like in the last quarter if you bring him in. I think he's perfect for that kind of scenarios. So what do you guys think of that?
Well, you've got good evidence to back that up, actually, because he has done quite well when he's come on in the last quarter when everybody's a little bit tired, and he can.
You're going to be quiet there, Macca. Speak up, man.
Oh, I am speaking up.
It might have been my earphone. Keep going. Sorry, mate.
Yep. You've got good backup there to make it to your point, because I think the times he has come on, he has always contributed. So yeah, he's a pretty good sub. No argument there.
And the midfield, I think you guys are forgetting Saligo especially, and I think that if we're looking at it, Laird is probably going to move out of there, especially if Barry comes in, or because he is a great defender and we are lacking that defense, especially in leadership down there. So I see him going back for Michael Andy to be that third tall instead of using him on a small. So I don't mind seeing that actually happen if they use that. But because we already have so many like him now with Barry and Crouch, and you can even say Pedler is kind of that player. He can be like the inside burst player. So if we use all these players, I really think that we should be sending Laird back as that leadership in that role. You got to think of it as well. He won his All-Australian down back.
The interesting thing, he was talking on TV tonight about the fact he'd be spending some time up forward.
Yeah, that's stupid.
I agree.
Well, you've expressed your opinion of that one very quickly, Aaron.
That's very succinct. Arab and I agree 100% with you.
Well, no, look, I got to say, he was saying it on TV this morning that today that it's a bit crowded in the midfield, and he will be spending a bit of time up forward. Now, I found it very strange to think that he would be doing that because he doesn't look like a forward. But then again, look, he does hunt the ball, so who knows? I've got no idea.
Well, Macca, it's only strange. It's only strange until you consider that may well be the rotation with Sam Berry.
It could well be. Or with Pedler.
Or the three of them.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
So that to me is almost like he's preempting a bit of a move with. I mean, they can't ignore Sam Berry. He was too good last week for them to ignore. And give based on what we've said tonight, which I think is pretty apparent, they have to get Sam Berry in, and if he plays, he has to be on the ground, in my opinion. And I think a rotation with the three, and maybe even I think you probably rotate Rochelle and Rankin a bit.
Yes.
But Berry, Laird, and Pedler probably makes a reasonable amount of sense.
Yeah,
I think you're really forgetting Saligo, especially in that second quarter.
He's going to be on the wing, mate.
He looked outstanding.
Yeah, but he's going to be on a wing, mate. He's not going to be in the clearances. He's going to be on the wing, Jake Saligo.
But it wouldn't be surprising for at times though for Saligo to go into the middle for the
maybe
centre,
one or two.
And he's one of the mids to drop back to the wing and then just change over once the ball moves on. But yes, so when Saligo did come on and play, it was only half a game, wasn't it? And he did very, very well, and he was in getting a few middle clearances as well.
Yeah. Look, a lot of people saying Saligo's a mid. I agree. I think he's got a fantastic step. He's very calm in traffic. He has had an interrupted pre-season though, so I reckon they'll probably run him through the wing, maybe with 1 or 2 attendances at this stage.
I think that's the
Yeah.
most likely thing. So, Aaron, do you think we can win, mate?
Yes. I mean, I don't see it that much of a doom in the midfield because to me, like Noah Anderson didn't seem at his best. Like they're only a really, really outstanding midfielder that's shown last week against Richmond was Raul. I don't like I might be misunderstanding, but I just I didn't see much coming out of other than Raul and Anderson. Yeah, they have dynamic in there, but we can match it everywhere else. We have Dawson to go in there. We have Soligo, which I really have my high hopes up for him. And don't forget Isaac Rankin and his creativity, like that. He could do some damage in there. Our midfield is not as bad and as doom as I think you guys are making out to be. Especially if we get Barry in there and he goes back to his 2022 form where he's getting 20 tackles a game, we're good. I think we're pretty set against their midfield.
We're not saying our midfield's bad, Arab, or I'm not anyway. I don't know what Mac is saying. I just think we're a little bit one-paced is probably my query.
That's fact. That is fact, yes.
And whether we've got the grunt to be able to hold Rao.
Are we though? If we put Pedler and Isaac Rankin in there and Rochelle with their speed, like those three are really quick players and they all got 3 bursts. So if we rotate them in there properly, are we really underpaced?
Well, time will tell how we rotate them.
But a comment made in the chat is one I agree with it. O'Brien, the way that he handles Witch is going to have a big say because Witch, if you remember, if you watch the game, Witch was up against a rookie ruckman because Dan Curvis was out injured for Richmond, and I can't remember the guy's name, but he's only played about half a dozen games. So Witch was up against an amateur, and he could feed the ball out as he wanted to his midfield. Ryan, thank you. That's who. And Nay Smith, who is an old timer who's had a few injuries. So he wasn't up against quality ruckman. And he did have a feast just feeding it out to those guys. And it wasn't just Rao, because the other blokes all had about 20 odd possessions, high 20 possessions as well, the other 3. So it's a pretty solid midfield all round, Arab. So the idea is that we've got to get first use of the ball.
Yeah, I think as always with O'Brien, if he can put pressure on Wits around the ground, that will go a long way towards us doing well. I think O'Brien has to, whether it's taking marks or being a link player or whatever, he cannot just lumber from contest to contest. He has got to make himself difficult for Wits to play against. If Wits can just jump all over him all day and O'Brien doesn't make him run. And as someone said in the chat, Riley looks as fit as I've ever seen him, and he has to take advantage of that. And that's I don't think we'll be roving to winning rucks, but Riley can certainly make up for that by just running his ass off and getting Wits on his bike.
Well, I think though, as I said, he's always had trouble with Wits because of Wits's height and long arms. But under the new one, where you can sort of run towards them and then put a hand in their chest and sort of push them back a little bit, it's going to make it a little bit easier for Rob. So if Rob can get, and I thought Rob was quite outstanding last week. I thought he played fantastically. So if Rob can carry on that format, because I've never seen him look as fit as he is, it's going to be the key. And we got murdered by them last time we played them, and again it was in the midfield, Rowell in particular, and that's again where the game is going to be won and lost, in my opinion. If we can actually neutralise their ruckman's effect, if we can neutralise them getting easy clearances, I think we've got the talent up forward that if we can get the ball up there to win the game. But if we sort of let them get a little bit on top in the midfield, we'll go under. That's for sure.
Arab, final thoughts?
Yeah, just one more thing. If you watched some of the games this week, I think our recruiting has been when we recruited a lot of forwards, especially like this half high up forward kind of players. It's kind of the game now where it's like a lot of the forwards are moving towards the midfield and they're helping out a lot. So I'm kind of thinking about it, I'm like, you know what, that's actually really helpful now that we've done that. And I think we're going to win this week, especially with those forwards that are coming out to help our midfielders. I really see a win for us.
Very good,
Aaron,
mate. Thank you.
Would love you to be right, and thanks for your thoughts there, mate.
Thanks,
you. Mate.
See you next week.
See ya. Bye. We do have a couple of minutes left if anyone else wants to have a say, but in the interim, Mac, your final thoughts?
Well, I'd love to think we would win the game, but I'm going to be very negative and say that we're going to have trouble with their midfield, and that will probably go down by 3 or 4 goals.
I think we will start pretty strong, Mac. The one thing that I will say is that early in a season, a team can struggle second up, and I think Gold Coast might just struggle a little bit second up. We'll be fresh, and we'll be ready to go. And if we can break even in the midfield, I think we win. And I'm tipping us in a little bit of an upset by 2 goals.
I hope you're right, and I hope I'm wrong.
Could go either way. It could go either way. Our 2 teams match up pretty strongly. I think we're going to build a pretty good rivalry over the next 5 years, Mac, because all things going well, these 2 teams should be right in the hunt for premierships over the next 3 to 5 years.
There's no argument about that. No, I think that we've also got some nice lads that we've drafted this year in particular that will probably be playing next year as well. So I think we've got and also the players that we've got in the side, they've got another season under their belt, and then next year they'll have another season under their belt. So yeah, look, there is natural growth in the team. So yes, we should improve this year. We should improve again next year, and the same goes with Gold Coast. So I think that from cellar dwellers, both of us will be, I think probably heading towards top 4 team.
Very good. Well, as mentioned before, on game day 7:40 on Saturday night, Discord will be alive on the game day chat channel, Mac. So for those listening who aren't on our Discord yet, get around it. The links are in our descriptions and in our profiles on our various socials. If you are watching us on YouTube, please consider giving us a like and subscribe. Particularly subscribe helps with the algorithm and gets us around. Our numbers have been really good, Mac, so I'm just always so grateful for the amount of support that we get from our listeners and new listeners coming on board. So thank you very much for that. We're getting a bit of traction again on Facebook after I spat the dummy on Facebook for 12 months. So that's really good. So yeah, thanks to everyone who is supporting us. Mac, I reckon that's about it. What do you reckon?
Yep. Yeah, just wanted to thank the guys that have come on the chat tonight and keep this honest. And when we say something, they'll either agree with us or tell us we've got no bloody idea. Sometimes they're right and sometimes they're not. So anyhow, thanks guys, and I hope that Fiend is right with his prediction for the game.
But Daniel, who I'm sure is someone I know because he's seen me kick, he's asking how he can donate to the channel. If you are watching on YouTube and you want to donate to the channel, I think I've put a PayPal link there somewhere. So have a look at the channel page. I reckon there's a PayPal link there somewhere. So if you do want to flick us a couple of bucks, then go right ahead, because it'll probably be sent straight on to Crows Foundation after I kick 1 goal 8 on Sunday.
Anyhow, it'll be great to see our boys back in action, and
Absolutely.
Whatever we do this match, I'm sure we'll improve.
Yeah, look, I reckon opening round's got hairs on it, Mac. It seemed to me like There was no momentum. They missed the bus in terms of the NRL. I don't quite see the point in the whole thing. I think it's given certain teams an unfair advantage. It certainly skewed the first half of the season, and I hope they never bloody do it again.
Yeah. I 100% agree with that, Pete. It's a stupid idea. And I don't think he even really got the numbers that they expected it to.
No.
They got good numbers, but not great numbers.
No, not great numbers. Anyway, never mind. All right, thanks everyone, and have a good week, and we'll see you next weekend for another episode of the Weekend Wrap. Till then, good night, everyone.
Yeah. Good night, legends. See ya.